Close your eyes and let the desert wind carry you across the sands of time, to a place where the impossible stands carved in stone under an endless sky. Picture yourself standing at the edge of the Giza Plateau where three massive pyramids pierce the horizon like ancient sentinels, their weathered faces catching the first light of dawn. For over 4 millennia, these monuments have gazed silently across the Nile, holding secrets that have tantalized humanity since the first explorers stumbled upon their grandeur. I am your guide through the shadows of forgotten history, where the stories we've been told crumble like ancient papyrus when exposed to the light of deeper inquiry. Tonight we embark on a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about these magnificent structures. We've been taught that the Great Pyramid of Giza, the most enigmatic wonder of the ancient world, was built by Pharaoh Khufu around 2580 BCE. Constructed by thousands of workers using copper tools, wooden ramps, and sheer human determination. The official narrative is comfortable, orderly, and fits neatly into our understanding of human progress. Egyptian workers quarried limestone blocks, some weighing 15 tons, and somehow maneuvered them into place with mathematical precision that rivals modern engineering. They aligned the structure to true north with an accuracy that modern GPS systems struggle to match, and embedded within its dimensions the mathematical constants of pi and the golden ratio, concepts that supposedly wouldn't be formally understood for centuries. But what if this story, repeated in every textbook and museum display, is nothing more than a carefully constructed facade? What if the pyramids of Giza are not the achievement of ancient Egypt, but rather the inheritance of a civilization so old, so advanced, that its very existence has been erased from our collective memory? Let the gentle rhythm of the desert night embrace you as we begin to unravel a mystery that spans millennia. The evidence we're about to explore suggests that these monuments may have been standing long before the first pharaoh held a scepter, built by hands we've never named for purposes we're only beginning to glimpse. The silence of the pyramids is not emptiness. It's a presence waiting for those brave enough to question what they've been told and listen to what the stones themselves whisper in the darkness. As the moon rises over the Giza Plateau, casting long shadows across the ancient stains, we must first examine the official story and the troubling inconsistencies that lie buried beneath its surface. The mainstream narrative tells us that the Great Pyramid was constructed during the 4th dynasty of Egypt's Old Kingdom, approximately 4,500 years ago, as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu. This massive undertaking supposedly required 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons, assembled with a precision that defies explanation. According to Egyptologists, this monumental task was accomplished using the technology available to ancient Egypt: copper chisels, wooden sledges, rope, and human labor. The workers, they claim, cut the blocks from nearby quarries, transported them using ramps and levers, and positioned them with such accuracy that the entire structure is level to within just 2.1 centimeters across its massive tooth. But here's where the first crack appears in this seemingly solid foundation. The precision required for such construction staggers the imagination. The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of just 0.05 degrees. A feat that requires not only sophisticated surveying equipment but also a deep understanding of celestial mechanics and the Earth's rotation. Modern construction projects, aided by laser levels and GPS technology, struggle to achieve such precision on a fraction of this scale. The mathematical properties embedded within the pyramid's design present an even greater puzzle. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height yields a value remarkably close to 2. The slope of the pyramid's faces incorporates the golden ratio, that mysterious mathematical constant that appears throughout nature and has fascinated mathematicians for millennia. These are not approximations or happy accidents. They represent deliberate, sophisticated mathematical knowledge that should not have existed in the ancient world. Consider the implications of this precision. To achieve the pyramid's alignment to true north, The builders would have needed to account for the precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of Earth's rotational axis that completes a cycle every 20. They would have needed to understand not just basic astronomy, but complex celestial mechanics that weren't formally described until thousands of years later. The scale of the construction project itself raises profound questions. Moving 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 15 tons, would require a logistical operation of staggering complexity. Modern engineers estimate that even with today's technology, reconstructing the Great Pyramid would be an enormously challenging undertaking, requiring massive cranes, precision cutting equipment, and computer-assisted planning. Yet we're asked to believe that this was accomplished by a civilization that had not yet invented the wheel for transportation, possessed no iron tools, and had no written mathematics more complex than basic arithmetic. The copper tools found in Egyptian archaeological sites are soft and would have been inadequate for cutting the hard limestone and granite used in the pyramid's construction. Experimental archaeology has repeatedly demonstrated that copper chisels cannot effectively shape granite. Yet the king's chamber within the Great Pyramid is constructed entirely of precisely cut granite blocks. The internal structure of the pyramid presents additional mysteries that the mainstream narrative struggles to address. The Grand Gallery, a soaring corridor that rises at a steep angle toward the king's chamber, represents an architectural marvel that seems to serve no practical purpose if the pyramid were merely a tomb. Its corbelled ceiling distributes the enormous weight of the structure above with an engineering sophistication that suggests intimate knowledge of load-bearing physics. The so-called King's Chamber itself is a masterpiece of acoustic engineering. The room resonates at specific frequencies, creating standing waves that can be felt as much as heard. This is not the random result of architectural necessity. It's the product of deliberate design by builders who understood the properties of sound and resonance. Why would tomb builders invest such effort in acoustic properties unless the chamber was intended for purposes beyond simple burial? Perhaps most telling of all is what the pyramid lacks. Unlike every other pharaonic tomb in Egypt, the Great Pyramid contains no hieroglyphic inscriptions, no religious texts, no paintings depicting the journey to the afterlife. Egyptian pharaohs were not known for their humility. Their tombs were typically covered with cartouches, religious scenes, and elaborate inscriptions proclaiming their divine nature and eternal glory. The silence of the Great Pyramid is deafening in its contrast to every other royal burial site in Egypt. The only connection between Khufu and the Great Pyramid is a single cartouche, the pharaoh's name written in hieroglyphs, found painted in red ochre on a hidden beam above the king's chamber. This cartouche was discovered in 1837 by British explorer Howard Vyse, who was under considerable pressure to link the pyramid to a specific pharaoh. The cartouche's authenticity has been questioned by some researchers, who note discrepancies in the hieroglyphic spelling and the suspicious circumstances of its discovery. Even if we accept the cartouche as genuine, a single painted name does not necessarily indicate that Khufu built the pyramid. It could equally suggest that he restored, renovated, or simply claimed an existing structure, a practice not uncommon among ancient rulers who sought to associate themselves with the works of their predecessors. The timeline of pyramid construction in Egypt also raises troubling questions. The Great Pyramid appears suddenly in the archaeological record, seemingly without precedent or preparation. Earlier pyramid attempts such as the Step Pyramid of Djoser and the Bent Pyramid of Sneferu show clear signs of experimentation and learning from mistakes. The Bent Pyramid in particular had to have its angle adjusted mid-construction to prevent collapse. Yet the Great Pyramid shows no such experimental nature. It appears fully formed, its design perfected, its execution flawless. If it were truly the culmination of Egyptian pyramid building knowledge, we would expect to see a clear progression of increasingly sophisticated structures leading up to it. Instead, we see the opposite: Subsequent pyramids show a decline in precision and sophistication, as if the knowledge required to build the Great Pyramid was somehow lost. The pyramid's construction also would have required resources and labor on a scale that seems impossible for the Egypt of four. Estimates suggest that the project would have required a workforce of 100,000 people laboring for 20 years, consuming enormous quantities of food, water, and materials. The logistical challenges of feeding, housing, and organizing such a workforce in the desert would have been staggering. Archaeological evidence for such a massive construction project is surprisingly sparse. While some workers' villages have been discovered near the pyramids, they appear to have housed at most a few thousand people, nowhere near the numbers that would have been required for the mainstream timeline of construction. As we delve deeper into these inconsistencies, a troubling pattern emerges. Each aspect of the Great Pyramid that we examine, its precision, its mathematical properties, its construction techniques, its scale seems to exceed what should have been possible for ancient Egypt. The more closely we look, the more the official narrative begins to unravel, like an ancient tapestry exposed to light after millennia in darkness. This is not to diminish the remarkable achievements of ancient Egyptian civilization. The Egyptians were indeed master builders, accomplished mathematicians, and sophisticated astronomers, but the evidence suggests that the Great Pyramid may not be their creation at all. Instead, it may be the work of a civilization so ancient, so advanced, that its very existence challenges our understanding of human history. Let the desert wind whisper these doubts into your consciousness as you drift deeper into contemplation. The foundation of the accepted story is cracking, revealing glimpses of a truth far more mysterious and profound than we've been led to believe. In the depths of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, tucked away from the crowds of tourists admiring golden treasures and royal mummies, sits a weathered limestone slab that whispers of truths too dangerous to display prominently. This is the inventory stela, discovered in 1858 by French archaeologist Auguste Mariette, near the base of the Great Pyramid. Its hieroglyphic text tells a story that, if true, would shatter the very foundations of Egyptology. Close your eyes and imagine the scene as Mariette's workers carefully brushed away millennia of accumulated sand from this modest monument. The stela bears the cartouche of Khufu, the pharaoh traditionally credited with building the Great Pyramid, but its message is revolutionary in its implication. Rather than boasting of construction achievements as was typical for royal inscriptions, the text describes Khufu as a restorer, someone who came upon the Great Pyramid and Sphinx as ancient, sacred structures already weathered by time. The inscription speaks of Khufu clearing sand from around the Sphinx, rebuilding temples that had fallen into ruin, and establishing new offerings to honor these ancient monuments. Most remarkably, it describes the pyramid as being associated with Isis, suggesting that these structures predated the pharaonic religious system entirely. The stela presents Khufu not as a builder, but as a caretaker of mysteries already ancient in his time. The academic establishment has largely dismissed the inventory stela as a later fabrication, claiming it was created during the 26th dynasty, some 2,000 years after Khufu's reign, as part of a propaganda campaign to glorify the ancient pharaoh. This dismissal seems conveniently tidy, allowing Egyptologists to maintain their established timeline without addressing the stela's troubling implications. But consider the logic of this dismissal. Why would priests from the 26th dynasty create a text that diminishes Khufu's legacy rather than enhancing it? Ancient Egyptian propaganda invariably sought to magnify the achievements of pharaohs, not reduce them to mere maintenance workers. If the stela were indeed fabricated propaganda, we would expect it to portray Khufu as an even greater builder, not as someone who merely cleaned up existing monuments. The stela's language is remarkably specific in its descriptions, mentioning architectural details and ritual practices that align with what we know of Old Kingdom religious traditions. This level of accurate historical detail would be unusual for a text created thousands of years after the fact, suggesting that the stela may indeed preserve authentic memories of Khufu's actual activities at Giza. Moving forward in time, we encounter another enigmatic inscription that reinforces the theme of restoration rather than construction. The Dream Stela, erected between the paws of the Great Sphinx by Pharaoh Thutmose in the Firth, around 1401 BCE, tells the haunting story of a prince who fell asleep in the shadow of the monument and received a divine vision. Picture the scene as the ancient text describes it. Prince Thutmose, not yet destined for the throne, resting during a hunting expedition in the shade of the Sphinx's massive head, the only part visible above the accumulated sand that had buried the monument's body. In his dream, the Sphinx spoke to him, identifying itself as the sun god Khepri, and lamenting its neglect and abandonment. The deity's words, as recorded on the stela, are particularly revealing. The Sphinx complains of sand choking its throat and of being forgotten by the people who once honored it. This suggests that even by 1400 BCE, less than 1200 years after the supposed construction of the Sphinx by Khepri, the monument had already been lost to memory and buried by desert sands. The implications are staggering. How could a monument supposedly built by Khepri around 2500 BCE be completely forgotten and buried by 1400 BCE? Egyptian civilization was continuous throughout this period, with extensive written records and institutional memory. Royal monuments were maintained by established priesthoods, and their histories were carefully preserved. For the Sphinx to be abandoned and forgotten so quickly after its supposed construction suggests that it may have been ancient even when Khepri's pyramid was built nearby. The Dream Stela describes Thutmose's subsequent efforts to excavate the Sphinx and restore its temples, eerily echoing the activities attributed to Khufu in the earlier inventory stela. Here again we see a pharaoh presented not as a creator but as a restorer of something already ancient and sacred. The stela's upper portion, where the original builder of the Sphinx might have been named, is conveniently missing, broken away in antiquity. Some researchers suggest this damage may not have been accidental but rather a deliberate attempt to obscure inconvenient truths about the monument's origins. The surviving text focuses on Thutmose's restoration efforts and the divine promises made to him in return, but it remains tellingly silent about who originally carved the Great Guardian. These two stela, separated by more than 1,000 years, paint a consistent picture of pharaohs encountering ancient monuments that predated their reigns. They describe rulers who saw themselves not as the creators of Giza's wonders, but as their preservers and restorers. This narrative stands in stark contrast to the typical pharaonic inscriptions found throughout Egypt, which invariably celebrate the construction achievements of their sponsors. The silence of these monuments themselves adds another layer to the mystery. Unlike virtually every other significant structure in ancient Egypt, the Great Pyramid contains no contemporary inscriptions identifying its builder. The walls that should be covered with religious texts, royal cartouches, and construction records remain stubbornly blank. This absence is so unusual that it demands explanation. Egyptian pharaohs were not known for modesty. Their monuments served dual purposes: functional structures for their earthly remains and eternal advertisements for their divine authority. Every temple, tomb, and obelisk was covered with texts proclaiming the pharaoh's greatness, describing his divine mandate and ensuring his remembrance for eternity. The Great Pyramid's silence is therefore profoundly anomalous. The single red ochre cartouche of Khufu, discovered by Howard Vyse in a sealed chamber above the king's chamber, stands in stark isolation. No other inscriptions accompany it. No religious texts. No descriptions of construction. No boasts of achievement. It feels almost like graffiti, a name scrawled in an empty space rather than the proud declaration of ownership we would expect from a pharaoh who had just completed the greatest construction project in human history. The circumstances of the cartouche's discovery also raise questions. Weiss was under intense pressure from his sponsors to link the pyramid to a specific pharaoh, and his journals from the period reveal his growing desperation to find such evidence. The cartouche was discovered in a small, inaccessible chamber that had allegedly been sealed since the pyramid's construction. Yet some researchers have noted discrepancies in the hieroglyphic spelling that suggest it may not be contemporary with Khufu's reign. Even if we accept the cartouche is authentic, it could represent any number of activities: restoration work, ritual consecration, or simple vandalism by later visitors. A single painted name does not constitute proof of construction, especially when weighed against the mountain of evidence suggesting these monuments are far older than the 4th dynasty. The acoustic properties of the Great Pyramid add another dimension to the mystery of its origin. The king's chamber resonates at a frequency of approximately 1100 Hz, creating standing waves that can be both heard and felt. This frequency is known to induce altered states of consciousness and has been measured in other ancient sacred sites around the world, including the Hypogeum of Hal Cefaliani in Malta and various chambers at Newgrange in Ireland. The precision required to create such acoustic effects suggests that the pyramid's builders possessed sophisticated knowledge of sound, resonance, and human consciousness. This is not the kind of accidental property that would emerge from simply piling stone blocks to create a tomb. It represents deliberate engineering designed to create specific experiential effects. Effects that align more closely with sacred or initiatory practices than with simple burial. The mathematical properties embedded in the pyramid's dimensions tell a similar story of advanced knowledge that seems anachronistic for the supposed period of construction. The relationship between the pyramid's perimeter and height encodes pi to remarkable accuracy. The slope of its faces incorporates the golden ratio. Its base measurements, when scaled by the factor 43 and 200, itself related to the precession of the equinoxes, closely approximate the dimensions of the Earth itself. These are not the mathematical relationships we would expect from a civilization that had not yet formalized concepts like pi or developed sophisticated geometric theorems. They suggest builders who possessed advanced knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and geodesy, knowledge that far exceeded what we know of 4th dynasty Egypt. The precision of the pyramid's construction reinforces this impression of advanced capabilities. The structure is aligned to true north with an accuracy that requires understanding of celestial mechanics and sophisticated surveying techniques. Its base is level to within centimeters across its vast area. Despite being built on uneven bedrock, its internal passages maintain perfect angles and dimensions over considerable distances, with tolerances that challenge modern construction methods. All of these factors point toward the same unsettling conclusion. The Great Pyramid and its surrounding monuments display characteristics that are difficult to reconcile with construction by 4th dynasty Egypt. They seem to require knowledge, techniques, and capabilities that either exceeded what was available at that time or have been dramatically underestimated by modern historians. As you contemplate these silent witnesses, the stelae that speak of restoration rather than construction, the monuments that bear no contemporary inscriptions, the acoustic and mathematical properties that suggest advanced knowledge allow their combined testimony to wash over you like the desert wind. They whisper of a truth that has been carefully buried beneath layers of conventional history, a truth that suggests these monuments may be the remnants of a civilization far older and more sophisticated than we have dared to imagine. The silence of the pyramids is not empty. It is pregnant with secrets that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the past. In that silence we begin to hear the echoes of a lost world, one that built these monuments not as tombs for kings but as repositories of knowledge designed to survive the collapse of civilization. Let the desert night embrace you as we turn our attention to perhaps the most compelling evidence that Giza's monuments predate ancient Egypt, the testimony written in stone by water and time itself. In the early 1990s, a geologist named Robert Suk stood before the Great Sphinx and saw something that would forever change our understanding of these ancient monuments. Unlike the Egyptologists who had studied the Sphinx for decades, Suk was not trained to see royal cartouches or religious symbols. He was a reader of stone, a man who understood the language that water writes on rock across millennia. What Suk observed on the walls of the Sphinx enclosure was not the sharp horizontal weathering pattern typical of wind erosion, the kind that has scoured the nearby pyramids for thousands of years. Instead, he found deep vertical channels, undulating patterns, and smooth, rounded erosion that could only have been caused by sustained heavy rainfall. This was the unmistakable signature of water erosion, the kind that occurs when rain flows down vertical surfaces for centuries, carving channels and sculpting stone in ways that desert winds simply cannot achieve. Close your eyes and imagine the implications of this discovery. The last time the Giza Plateau experienced the kind of sustained heavy rainfall necessary to create such erosion patterns was during the African humid period, which ended approximately 7th. During this time, the Sahara was not the arid desert we know today, but a green savanna dotted with lakes and traversed by rivers. Monsoon rains fell regularly, supporting herds of antelope, elephants, and hippopotamuses, animals whose images are preserved in rock art throughout what is now the world's largest desert. If Suk's analysis is correct, the Sphinx must have been carved during or before this humid period, making it at least 7,000 years old, more than twice the age assigned to it by conventional Egyptology. This revelation struck at the very heart of archaeological orthodoxy, suggesting that advanced stone carving techniques existed in the Nile Valley thousands of years before the first pharaohs supposedly united Egypt. The geological evidence becomes even more compelling when we examine the temples adjacent to the Sphinx. These structures, built from limestone blocks quarried directly from the Sphinx enclosure, show none of the water erosion visible on the Sphinx itself. Their surfaces are sharp and angular, bearing only the horizontal weathering patterns typical of wind erosion. This stark difference suggests that the temples were built much later, using stone that had been freshly cut from the Sphinx enclosure long after the original water erosion had occurred. Picture the scene as it might have unfolded. Ancient builders, working in a time when Egypt was already becoming arid, quarrying fresh limestone from the walls of the Sphinx enclosure to build temples honoring a monument that was already ancient. The Sphinx itself, its body deeply scarred by millennia of rain, stood as a mysterious guardian, whose origins were lost even to its new worshippers. The pattern of erosion on the Sphinx is not uniform, providing additional clues about the climate conditions under which it was carved. The front paws and chest show the most severe water erosion, while the rear portion shows progressively less weathering. This gradient suggests that the monument was carved during a transitional period, when the climate was gradually becoming dry. The builders began their work during the waning years of the humid period, and by the time they completed the rear portions, the rains were already becoming less frequent and less severe. This interpretation aligns remarkably well with paleoclimatic data from the region. Core samples from ancient lake beds in the Sahara show that the transition from humid to arid conditions was not sudden but gradual, occurring over several millennia. The climate was becoming increasingly dry between 7,000 and 4,000 years ago, with the final transition to desert conditions occurring around 4,000 years ago, precisely when conventional chronology places the supposed construction of the Sphinx by Khafre. The implications extend beyond the Sphinx itself. If this monument was carved during the African humid period, it suggests the presence of a sophisticated civilization in the Nile Valley thousands of years before the emergence of dynastic Egypt. This civilization possessed the knowledge, tools, and organizational capability to conceive and execute a project of staggering ambition, carving a massive lion-bodied guardian from living rock. The choice of a lion for the Sphinx's body takes on new significance when viewed in this context. During the humid period, lions were common throughout the region, part of a rich ecosystem that supported diverse wildlife. The builders of the Sphinx would have been intimately familiar with these magnificent predators, perhaps seeing in them appropriate symbols of power and guardianship. By the time dynastic Egypt emerged, lions had largely retreated to more southern regions as the Sahara dried up, making the choice of lion symbolism less immediate and obvious. The scale of the Sphinx project also suggests capabilities that far exceeded what we might expect from a prehistoric civilization. The monument required the removal of over 200,000 tons of limestone, involving careful planning to work with the natural geology of the site while creating a coherent sculptural form. The precision of the carving, the understanding of stone properties, and the architectural vision required for such a project imply a high level of technological and organizational sophistication. Recent geological surveys have revealed additional evidence supporting the great antiquity of the Sphinx. Ground-penetrating radar studies have detected subsurface chambers and voids around the monument, some of which appear to be artificial constructions. These hidden spaces, if they exist, could represent an even earlier phase of construction or modification, pushing the origins of the site back even further in time. The bedrock geology of the Giza Plateau itself provides clues about the conditions under which the Sphinx was carved. The limestone layers show distinct variations in hardness and composition, with some strata being much more resistant to erosion than others. The water erosion patterns on the Sphinx follow these geological boundaries precisely, creating the characteristic undulating profile that Schoch identified as definitive evidence of rainfall weathering. This geological precision in the erosion patterns argues against alternative explanations that have been proposed by orthodox archaeologists. Some have suggested that the weathering could be caused by groundwater, flooding, or other factors that might explain the erosion without requiring a much earlier date for the monument. However, detailed geological analysis shows that none of these alternative mechanisms can account for the specific patterns and depth of erosion visible on the Sphinx. The debate over the Sphinx's age has revealed the sometimes contentious nature of interdisciplinary archaeological research. Geologists examining the monument tend to support Schoch's interpretation, recognizing the clear evidence of water erosion and its implications for dating. Egyptologists, however, have generally resisted this conclusion, arguing that it would require revising fundamental assumptions about the development of ancient Egyptian civilization. This resistance is understandable from an institutional perspective. Accepting the geological evidence for the Sphinx's great antiquity would require acknowledging the existence of a sophisticated pre-dynastic civilization capable of monumental stone carving. It would suggest that the roots of Egyptian civilization extend much deeper into the past than previously imagined, and that the emergence of pharaonic culture may have been built upon much older foundations. The geological testimony extends beyond erosion patterns to include other forms of evidence. The mineral deposits found in cracks and crevices of the Sphinx show patterns consistent with formation during periods of higher humidity and temperature, conditions that existed during the African humid period, but not during the supposed 4th dynasty construction date. Chemical analysis of the limestone itself has revealed subtle but significant differences between the stone of the Sphinx and that of nearby quarries that were definitely worked during dynastic period. These differences suggest that the Sphinx limestone was exposed to different environmental conditions during its formation and subsequent weathering, supporting the argument for a much earlier date of carving. The vegetation patterns around ancient monuments can also provide clues about their age and the conditions under which they were built. Palynological studies, the analysis of ancient pollen preserved in sediment layers, show that the Giza area supported much more diverse plant life during the humid period than during dynastic time. The original builders of the Sphinx would have worked in a landscape of grasslands and scattered trees, very different from the desert environment that later Egyptian dynasties encountered. As you allow these geological revelations to settle into your consciousness like sediment in an ancient lake, consider the profound implications of this evidence. The stones themselves, through the language of erosion and weathering, tell a story that contradicts the official narrative of Egyptian archaeology. They speak of a time when the Sahara was green, when unknown builders possessed the skill and vision to create monuments that would outlast civilization. The geological evidence for the Sphinx's great antiquity is not circumstantial or speculative. It is written in stone, recorded by the inexorable processes of weathering and climate change. Like tree rings or ice cores, these erosion patterns provide a direct link to ancient environmental conditions, offering testimony that cannot be dismissed or reinterpreted to fit preconceived notions. In the silence of the desert night, as the ancient stones cool under the star-filled sky, the geological testimony continues to speak. It whispers of a lost world, a civilization that worked with nature's cycles rather than against them, leaving monuments that serve as bridges between the green past and the arid present. The water that once carved these erosion patterns has long since vanished, but its signature remains etched in stone, waiting for those with eyes to see and minds open enough to accept its revolutionary implications. In the deepest hours of the night, when the desert air carries the whispers of ancient secrets, we must confront perhaps the most profound mystery of the Great Pyramid, the mathematical impossibilities embedded within its stone walls. Close your eyes and allow yourself to be transported back to a time when the pyramid was new, its limestone surfaces gleaming white under the Egyptian sun, its apex crowned with a golden capstone that caught the first light of dawn. Even then, this monument held within its proportions mathematical relationships so sophisticated, so precise that they challenge our entire understanding of ancient knowledge. The pyramid's base forms an almost perfect square, each side measuring approximately when we calculate the perimeter 9 to 21.6 meters and divide it by the pyramid's original height of 1 to 6.6 meters, we arrive at a number that should make us pause in wonder. 6.2857. This value falls within 0.1% of 2 pi, one of the most fundamental mathematical constants in the universe. Pi, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, was not formally calculated to this degree of accuracy until the work of Archimedes in ancient Greece, more than 2,000 years after the pyramid's supposed construction. But this is merely the beginning of the pyramid's mathematical revelations. The slope angle of the pyramid's faces, approximately 51.84 degrees, incorporates another universal constant, the golden ratio. When we examine the relationship between the pyramid's height and the distance from its center to any corner of its base, we find proportions that align precisely with the golden ratio. This mathematical relationship, which appears throughout nature in everything from nautilus shells to flower petals, was not formally described by Greek mathematicians until centuries after the pyramid's alleged construction. The precision of these mathematical relationships defies explanation by conventional archaeology. The probability of accidentally achieving both pi and phi ratios in a single structure, accurate to within fractions of a percent, is virtually zero. These are not approximations stumbled upon through trial and error. They represent deliberate, sophisticated mathematical knowledge that far exceeded what we believe the 4th dynasty Egyptians possessed. Let your mind drift deeper into contemplation as we explore even more extraordinary mathematical properties. When we multiply the pyramid's height by the number 43 thirsa, when we multiply the base perimeter by the same factor, we get 31,200 meters, closely matching the Earth's equatorial circumference. The scaling factor of 43 third is not arbitrary. It represents 1/600th of the precession cycle, the 25,000–9,020-year wobble in Earth's rotational axis that slowly shifts the position of stars in our sky. The implications of these calculations are staggering. They suggest that whoever designed the Great Pyramid possessed precise knowledge of the Earth's dimensions, knowledge that required understanding our planet as a sphere, and the ability to measure its circumference and polar radius. This geodetic knowledge was supposedly not achieved by human civilization until the work of Eratosthenes in ancient Greece, and even then, his calculations were less accurate than the measurements encoded in the pyramid. The mathematical sophistication extends into the pyramid's internal structure. The king's chamber, constructed from precisely cut granite blocks, embodies mathematical relationships that seem to be drawn from advanced acoustic and harmonic principles. The chamber's dimensions create resonant frequencies that align with musical ratios based on the golden ratio and other mathematical constants. The precision required to achieve these acoustic properties through stone construction implies knowledge of wave mechanics and harmonic mathematics that supposedly did not exist in the ancient world. The Grand Gallery, that soaring corridor that leads to the king's chamber, demonstrates mathematical principles of load distribution and structural engineering that were not formally understood until the development of modern architectural theory. The corbelled ceiling design, which distributes the enormous weight of the pyramid above across multiple stone courses, represents a sophisticated understanding of force vectors and material stress engineering knowledge that should not have existed in the Bronze Age. Consider the astronomical alignments embedded within the pyramid's design. The so-called air shafts that extend from the king's and queen's chambers point with laser-like precision to specific stars as they appeared around. The southern shaft from the king's chamber targets Orion's belt, while the northern shaft points to the pole star of that era. These alignments required not only sophisticated astronomical observation but also the mathematical ability to calculate stellar positions across time, accounting for the precession of the equinoxes. The precision of these alignments is extraordinary. The shafts maintain their targeting angles across distances of more than 60 meters, never deviating by more than a few arc minutes. This level of accuracy in construction requires mathematical planning and surveying techniques that rival modern capability. The builders needed to calculate three-dimensional angles, account for the Earth's curvature, and predict stellar positions with a precision that implies centuries of careful astronomical observation and mathematical analysis. The mathematical relationships extend beyond the Great Pyramid to encompass the entire Giza complex. The positions of the three main pyramids, when mapped precisely, show mathematical relationships to each other that mirror the positions of the three stars in Orion's belt. This correlation, first proposed by Robert Bauval in his Orion correlation theory, suggests that the entire plateau was designed as a terrestrial map of a specific region of the sky, a feat of mathematical and astronomical planning that implies coordinated design across multiple monument construction projects. The second pyramid, attributed to Khafre, and the third pyramid, attributed to Menkaure, show progressively less mathematical sophistication than the Great Pyramid. Their proportions are less precise, their alignments less accurate, and their construction techniques less refined. This pattern suggests that the mathematical knowledge required to build the Great Pyramid was somehow lost or diluted over time, rather than developed through accumulated experience. This decline in mathematical precision parallels what we observe in pyramid construction throughout Egyptian history. Later pyramids show increasingly rough construction, with inferior materials and less sophisticated design. If the Great Pyramid represented the culmination of centuries of Egyptian mathematical and engineering development, we would expect to see steady improvement over time, not the decline that actually characterizes later pyramid building. The mathematical impossibilities extend to the pyramid's construction logistics. Modern engineering analysis suggests that building the Great Pyramid would require moving and positioning one 2.5-ton block every 2 minutes, working continuously for 20 years. This calculation assumes perfect efficiency, no weather delays, no equipment failures, and no time lost to planning, measuring, or correcting errors. The mathematical reality of such a construction schedule defies belief. Even with modern equipment and techniques, the precision required for cutting and placing 2.3 million stone blocks with the accuracy exhibited in the Great Pyramid implies quality control and measurement systems of extraordinary sophistication. Each block needed to be cut to precise dimensions, transported without damage, and positioned with millimeter accuracy. The mathematical probability of achieving this level of precision across such a massive project, using supposedly primitive tools and techniques, approaches zero. Recent computer modeling of the pyramid's construction has revealed additional mathematical impossibilities in the conventional narrative. The ramp systems that would have been required to move blocks to the upper levels of the pyramid would need to be so large and complex that they would have required more material than the pyramid itself. The mathematical logistics of feeding, housing, and organizing the massive workforce supposedly required for construction present equally insurmountable challenges when analyzed quantitatively. The mathematical evidence suggests that the Great Pyramid was designed by minds that possessed advanced knowledge of geometry, astronomy, physics, and engineering knowledge that far exceeded what conventional archaeology attributes to the Fourth Dynasty. The precision, sophistication, and internal consistency of these mathematical relationships argue for a single coherent design intelligence, rather than the accumulated trial and error learning that characterizes most ancient construction projects. As you drift deeper into contemplation of these mathematical mysteries, allow the numbers themselves to speak to you. Pi and phi, Earth's dimensions and stellar positions, harmonic ratios and structural calculations, all embedded within a single stone monument with a precision that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about ancient capability. These mathematical relationships are not accidents or approximations. They are the signatures of advanced knowledge preserved in stone for millennia, waiting for minds sophisticated enough to recognize their significance. The mathematics of the impossible whisper to us across the centuries, telling us that our ancestors or someone possessed knowledge that we are only beginning to rediscover. In the silent chambers of the Great Pyramid, equations older than written history wait patiently in the darkness, their solutions carved in stone, their implications too profound for orthodox archaeology to acknowledge. The numbers do not lie. They cannot be dismissed, reinterpreted, or explained away. They stand as eternal testimony to the mathematical genius of unknown builders who embedded the secrets of the universe itself within the greatest monument ever constructed by human hands, or perhaps not human hands at all. As the desert stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns, we must confront the most challenging question raised by the monuments of Giza. What technology could have created structures of such impossible precision? Close your eyes and let your mind drift back through the mists of time to witness a technology so advanced, so far beyond our current understanding, that it seems almost divine in its capability. The official narrative asks us to believe that the Great Pyramid, with its 2.3 million precisely cut stone blocks, was constructed using copper chisels, wooden sledges, and human muscle power. Yet when we examine the evidence with clear eyes, we find technology signatures that seem to belong to another world entirely. Precision that rivals laser cutting, lifting capabilities that exceed modern cranes and construction techniques that would challenge contemporary engineering. Let the silence of the night embrace you as we explore the technological impossibilities embedded within these ancient stones. Begin with the simple matter of cutting stone. Experimental archaeology has repeatedly demonstrated that copper tools, the hardest metal available to 4th Dynasty Egypt, are inadequate for the precision cutting evident throughout the Great Pyramid. Copper is a soft metal that quickly dulls and deforms when used against limestone, and it is virtually useless against the granite found in the King's Chamber and the internal passages. The granite blocks in the King's Chamber present a particularly puzzling technological challenge. These massive stones, some weighing up to 70 tons, were quarried at Aswan 800 kilometers south of Giza, then transported north along the Nile and somehow maneuvered into position within the pyramid's internal structure. The precision of their cutting and fitting defies explanation by conventional archaeological theory. Modern attempts to replicate the cutting of granite using copper tools have failed repeatedly. Even when copper is hardened with tin to create bronze, an alloy that was not widely available during the supposed construction period, the resulting tools wear down rapidly and cannot achieve the smooth, precise surfaces visible on the pyramid's granite blocks. The saw marks visible on some of these blocks suggest cutting rates that exceed what is possible with copper or bronze tools by several orders of magnitude. Some researchers have proposed that the pyramid builders used harder cutting materials such as iron tools or diamond-edged implements. However, iron was not available in Egypt during the 4th Dynasty, and diamonds were unknown in the ancient world. The technological requirements for cutting granite with such precision would seem to demand materials and techniques that were simply unavailable to ancient Egyptian civilization. The acoustic properties of the Great Pyramid's chambers reveal another technological mystery. The King's Chamber resonates at a frequency of approximately 11 Hz, creating standing waves that can be both heard and felt by visitors to the space. This frequency has been measured in other ancient sacred sites around the world and is known to induce altered states of consciousness in human subjects. The precision required to create such acoustic effects through stone construction implies advanced knowledge of wave mechanics, harmonic mathematics, and the relationship between sound and consciousness. The granite used in the King's Chamber is rich in quartz crystal, a material that exhibits piezoelectric properties. It generates electrical charges when subjected to mechanical stress or vibration. Some researchers have speculated that the pyramid's chambers were designed to harness these piezoelectric effects, perhaps creating electrical fields or energy phenomena that we do not yet understand. While this interpretation remains speculative, it highlights the technological sophistication embedded within the monument's design. The internal passages of the Great Pyramid demonstrate construction techniques that challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. The Grand Gallery, with its corbelled ceiling rising to a height of nearly 9 meters, represents a masterpiece of structural engineering. The precise angles and load-bearing calculations required to construct this soaring corridor imply advanced knowledge of physics and mathematics that supposedly did not exist in the Bronze Age. The air shafts that extend from the King's and Queen's chambers present their own technological mysteries. These narrow passages, barely 20 centimeters square, maintain perfect angles and alignments across distances of more than 60. The precision required to drill or cut such passages through solid limestone while maintaining exact orientations to celestial targets would challenge modern construction techniques. The shaft's walls are smooth and precisely rectangular, showing no evidence of the rough cutting we would expect from primitive tools. Recent robotic exploration of these shafts has revealed even more puzzling technological evidence. The famous door discovered by the Uparot robot in 1993 is fitted with copper pins that serve no apparent functional purpose. These pins are precisely placed and perfectly preserved, suggesting manufacturing techniques and materials that exceed what we attribute to ancient Egypt. The door itself is cut and fitted with tolerances that would be acceptable in modern precision manufacturing. The overall precision of the Great Pyramid's construction presents perhaps the most compelling evidence for advanced technology. The base of the pyramid is level to within 2.1 centimeters across its entire 13-acre area. Despite being constructed on uneven bedrock, achieving this level of precision would require surveying instruments and construction techniques that supposedly did not exist in the ancient world. The pyramid's alignment to true north, accurate to within 0.05 degrees, represents another technological impossibility for the supposed period of construction. Modern buildings constructed with laser levels and GPS guidance rarely achieve such precision. The ancient builders would have needed not only sophisticated surveying instruments, but also detailed knowledge of celestial mechanics and the Earth's rotation. The logistics of moving and positioning 2.3 million stone blocks present technological challenges that extend beyond simple tools and technique. Modern cranes, the most powerful lifting devices available today, would be barely adequate for positioning the largest stones found in the pyramid's upper courses. The precision required to place these blocks, some weighing 15 tons or more with millimeter accuracy at heights exceeding 100 meters, implies lifting and positioning technology that exceeds our current capabilities. The quarrying techniques used to extract the pyramid's stone blocks show evidence of cutting methods that remain mysterious. Some blocks bear tool marks that suggest cutting rates far exceeding what is possible with copper or bronze implements. The smooth surfaces and precise angles of cut stones imply cutting technologies that we struggle to identify or explain using known ancient techniques. The transportation of stone blocks from distant quarries presents additional technological puzzle. The granite blocks in the king's chamber were quarried at Aswan, requiring transportation across 800 kilometers of river and desert. The logistics of moving 70-ton granite blocks using ancient transportation methods, wooden sledges, rope, and human labor strain credibility. Modern heavy lift equipment would be required for such an operation today. Recent analysis of the pyramid's internal structure using cosmic ray imaging has revealed additional chambers and voids that were previously unknown. These hidden spaces, inaccessible to conventional exploration, suggest construction techniques that allowed for complex internal architecture while maintaining structural integrity. The existence of these hidden chambers implies construction planning and engineering capabilities that far exceed what we attribute to ancient civilization. The electromagnetic properties of the Great Pyramid have been studied by various researchers, revealing anomalous readings that suggest the structure may interact with natural energy fields in ways we do not fully understand. Some measurements indicate that the pyramid concentrates electromagnetic energy at its apex and within its internal chambers, though the mechanisms responsible for these effects remain unclear. The temperature regulation within the pyramid's chambers represents another technological mystery. Despite extreme temperature variations in the external desert environment, the internal temperature of the king's chamber remains remarkably stable year-round. This climate control appears to result from the structure's design and materials rather than any mechanical systems, suggesting sophisticated understanding of thermodynamics and building physics. The preservation of the pyramid's internal atmosphere provides additional evidence for advanced construction techniques. The sealed chambers maintain air quality and humidity levels that would be expected in much more recent construction. This preservation suggests construction methods and materials that were designed to create and maintain specific environmental conditions over millennia. As you contemplate these technological mysteries in the depths of the desert night, allow yourself to consider the implications of what we have discovered. The evidence suggests that the builders of the Great Pyramid possessed technologies that match or exceed our current capabilities in many areas. The precision, scale, and sophistication of their work implies access to knowledge and techniques that remain mysterious to us even today. Whether this technology was developed by an advanced ancient civilization inherited from an even older culture, or provided by intelligence from beyond our world. It represents a chapter of human, or perhaps non-human achievement, that has been written out of our official history. The stones themselves bear witness to capabilities that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the past and our place in the long story of technological development. In the silence of the pyramid's chambers, ancient technologies wait patiently for minds advanced enough to understand their secrets. The builders, whoever they were, created monuments that serve not only as testaments to their capabilities but as challenges to future civilizations. Puzzles encoded in stone, waiting for the day when we develop the wisdom and technology necessary to unlock their deepest mystery. Beneath the familiar monuments of Giza lies a hidden world that few have seen and fewer still are permitted to explore. Close your eyes and descend with me into the shadowy realm beneath the plateau, where the earth itself guards secrets that may be older than the pyramids above. In the depths of these man-made caves and chambers, we find evidence of a civilization that hollowed out the bedrock for purposes we can barely comprehend. Let the darkness envelop you as we explore the first of these subterranean mysteries, the Osiris Shaft, discovered near the causeway of Khafre's pyramid. This vertical tunnel plunges more than 30 meters into the limestone bedrock, descending through 3 distinct levels into the heart of the plateau. Unlike the rough-hewn shafts that might be expected from ancient quarrying operations, the Osiris Shaft shows evidence of sophisticated planning and precision engineering. The descent into the shaft is a journey into the ancient unknown. The first level opens into a small chamber accessible only through a narrow passage that requires specialized equipment to navigate safely. The stonework here is precise, with walls that show consistent tool marks suggesting the work of skilled craftsmen using techniques that remain mysterious to modern archaeologists. The second level is partially flooded with groundwater, creating a barrier that has thwarted complete exploration but has also preserved whatever lies beneath. The water level has remained remarkably stable over the decades since the shaft's discovery, suggesting underground water systems that extend far beyond this single location. Chemical analysis of this water has revealed mineral compositions that differ from typical groundwater in the region, hinting at deep sources or ancient geological processes. The third and deepest level opens into a large chamber that defies conventional explanation. 6 side niches are carved into the walls with mathematical precision, their dimensions and spacing suggesting purpose beyond simple storage or burial. At the chamber's center sits a massive stone sarcophagus. But unlike other burial containers found throughout Egypt, this one shows no evidence of ever having contained human remains. No traces of mummification materials, no stains from decomposition, no artifacts typically associated with burial practices. The acoustic properties of this deepest chamber are extraordinary. Whispers carry with startling clarity across the space, while louder sounds are absorbed and muffled in ways that suggest deliberate acoustic engineering. The frequency response of the chamber has been measured at approximately 120 Hz. Similar to other ancient sacred sites around the world, this acoustic signature is known to induce altered states of consciousness, and has been associated with ancient practices of sound healing and consciousness exploration. The walls of the Osiris Shaft chambers are smooth and precisely cut, bearing tool marks so consistent they suggest the work of a single skilled team using techniques that remain unidentified. The angles are perfect, the surface is flat, and the overall construction quality rivals the most sophisticated masonry found anywhere in ancient Egypt. Yet this remarkable craftsmanship is hidden deep underground, accessible only to those willing to make the dangerous descent into the shaft's depths. Historical accounts from the 19th and early 20th centuries describe a vast network of underground passages and chambers extending throughout the Giza Plateau. Early explorers, including members of Napoleon's expedition to Egypt, mapped subterranean corridors that connected the pyramids and the Sphinx in ways that suggested coordinated underground construction. These maps, drawn before modern tourism and archaeological excavation altered the site, show features that no longer appear on official plans. British Egyptologist Ernest Alfred Wallace Budge wrote extensively about underground chambers he claimed to have explored beneath Giza. His descriptions, detailed and specific, tell of passages extending far beyond what would be required for simple tomb construction. He described stairways descending deeper than any burial chamber, corridors that followed geometric patterns rather than the irregular sprawl of natural caves, and chambers with carved walls that seemed to serve purposes unrelated to mortuary practices. During the night, American archaeologist Herbert Eustace Winlock documented what he termed catacombs beneath the plateau, chambers with elaborate carved decorations, passages that maintained consistent dimensions over considerable distances, and architectural features that suggested a sophisticated understanding of underground construction techniques. His detailed notes described masonry work that equaled or exceeded the quality found in the surface monuments, raising questions about the relationship between the underground and above-ground construction phases. These historical accounts, now largely forgotten or dismissed by mainstream archaeology, present a consistent picture of extensive underground construction at Giza. The descriptions span decades and come from multiple independent sources, suggesting that early explorers were documenting real features rather than creating elaborate hoaxes or misinterpreting natural formation. In 2008, Egyptian researchers conducted ground-penetrating radar surveys of the Giza Plateau, revealing the most comprehensive picture yet of the underground realm. Their scans detected a network of voids, tunnels and chambers stretching beneath the pyramids and the Sphinx. Some of these features matched the historical maps created by Napoleon's team, confirming that early explorers had indeed documented real structures rather than imagined features. The radar revealed chambers beneath the Sphinx, with regular geometric shapes that could not be explained by natural erosion or geological processes. The size and configuration of these spaces suggest artificial construction, raising questions about the relationship between the Sphinx and whatever civilizations might have built the underground network. The chambers appear to be positioned with mathematical precision relative to the Sphinx above, suggesting coordinated planning between the surface monument and the subterranean structure. Beneath the Great Pyramid, the radar detected chambers that are not connected to the known internal passages, hinting at a separate phase of construction or modification. These hidden spaces show the same geometric regularity found elsewhere in the underground network, with dimensions and proportions that suggest purposeful design rather than accidental void formation. The implications of these discoveries are profound, yet access to explore these underground spaces has been severely restricted by Egyptian authorities. Official explanations for the radar anomalies have been dismissive, describing the detected features as natural geological formations or known chambers that were already documented. However, the geometric regularity and mathematical relationships evident in the radar data argue against natural formation and exceed the scope of previously known underground spaces. The pattern of restriction and denial surrounding the underground network mirrors the broader pattern of concealment we have observed throughout our investigation of Giza's mysteries. Tunnels that were documented and even entered by early explorers have been sealed and declared non-existent. Radar data showing clear evidence of artificial underground construction has been dismissed as irrelevant. Researchers seeking to explore these spaces have been denied access or had their permits revoked without explanation. The technology required to create the underground network at Giza would have been formidable. Excavating chambers deep in solid bedrock requires not only appropriate tools but also sophisticated understanding of geology, structural engineering, and underground construction technique. The precision evident in the surviving chambers suggests capabilities that equal or exceed those required for the surface monuments. The purpose of this extensive underground network remains one of Giza's greatest mysteries. The chambers show no evidence of having served as tombs, storage areas, or workshops. Their acoustic properties, geometric precision, and mathematical relationships suggest functions that we do not fully understand. Some researchers have speculated that they might have served ritual or initiatory purposes, perhaps related to ancient practices of consciousness exploration or spiritual transformation. The water systems found in some underground chambers hint at sophisticated hydraulic engineering. The stable water levels in the Osiris shaft and other flooded chambers suggest connections to deep aquifers or artificial water management systems. Chemical analysis of these waters reveals mineral compositions that differ from surface groundwater, indicating deep sources or long-term isolation that has allowed unique chemical evolution. Recent thermal imaging of the Giza Plateau has detected temperature anomalies that may indicate additional underground spaces. The thermal signatures suggest voids or chambers that affect heat transfer through the bedrock, providing another line of evidence for extensive underground construction. These thermal anomalies often correlate with the radar detections, strengthening the case for artificial underground features. The construction techniques used in the underground chambers show the same sophisticated understanding of stoneworking that we observe in the surface monument. The precision of the cutting, the smoothness of the surfaces, and the geometric accuracy of the chambers suggest access to advanced tools and techniques. Some tool marks found in the underground spaces do not match any known ancient Egyptian cutting methods, raising questions about the identity and capabilities of the builder. As you contemplate these underground mysteries in the depths of the desert night, consider the implications of a civilization that not only built magnificent monuments on the surface, but also created an extensive underground realm of equal sophistication. The network of chambers, passages, and hydraulic systems beneath Giza represents a massive construction project that may have required generations to complete. The silence that surrounds these underground spaces is as profound as their mystery. Like the monuments above, they bear no inscriptions identifying their builders or explaining their purpose. They exist as mute testimony to capabilities and intentions that remain hidden from us, waiting in the darkness beneath our feet. In the depths of the plateau, ancient chambers echo with secrets that may hold the key to understanding the true purpose and origin of the Giza complex. The underground realm speaks of a civilization that thought in terms of geological time, building not just for their own era but for ages yet to come. In the darkness below, the past waits patiently for explorers brave enough to descend into its depths and wise enough to understand what they might find there. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the desert air carries whispers of forgotten truths, we must confront the most disturbing aspect of the Giza mystery: the systematic suppression of evidence that challenges the official narrative. Close your eyes and allow yourself to consider the possibility that some discoveries are too dangerous to reveal, some truths too disruptive to acknowledge, and some evidence too profound to be allowed into the light of day. The pattern of concealment begins with the most tantalizing discovery in modern pyramid research: the sealed doors found by robotic exploration within the Great Pyramid's mysterious air shafts. In 1993, Rudolf Gantenbrink's robot Opuyat made international headlines when it discovered a stone door with copper pins blocking one of the narrow shafts extending from the Queen's chamber. The world watched with breathless anticipation as this first clear evidence of hidden chambers within the pyramid promised to revolutionize our understanding of the ancient monument. But then something extraordinary happened, or rather failed to happen. Gantenbrink's contract was abruptly terminated by the Egyptian authorities. His access to the pyramid was revoked without explanation, and further exploration was indefinitely postponed. The official reason given was that Gantenbrink had exceeded his mandate, which was supposedly limited to improving ventilation rather than exploration. Yet the door had been discovered during the legitimate course of his work, and stopping the investigation at the moment of breakthrough felt like more than bureaucratic caution. For nearly a decade, the sealed door remained untouched while the world waited for answers. When exploration finally resumed in 2002, it was under strict Egyptian control with limited international oversight. The new robot, dubbed the Pyramid Rover, was equipped with drilling capabilities to penetrate the mysterious door. Live television broadcasts promised to reveal what lay beyond the barrier that had tantalized researchers for so long. The results were simultaneously fascinating and frustrating. Behind the first door lay another chamber, empty, precisely constructed and sealed by yet another door. The discovery raised more questions than it answered. Why build chambers that no human could access? Why seal them with such care if they contain nothing? Why place copper pins on doors that seem to serve no functional purpose? Most puzzling of all, why did exploration stop again? The second door remains unopened to this day, its secrets locked away by official indifference or deliberate concealment. The copper pins, the precise stonework, the mathematical relationships all suggest purposes and capabilities that exceed our understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization. Yet no further investigation has been permitted. The pattern of termination and delay surrounding the pyramid's robotic exploration reflects a broader pattern of suppression that extends throughout Giza research. The ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted in 2008 detected extensive networks of chambers and tunnels beneath the plateau, confirming many of the features reported by 19th-century explorers. Yet when researchers sought to investigate these anomalies, they encountered locked gates and official denial. The Egyptian authorities, through the Supreme Council of Antiquities, have consistently dismissed radar evidence of underground chambers as either natural geological formations or previously known features that require no further investigation. However, the geometric regularity and mathematical precision of the detected features clearly indicate artificial construction, and many of the chambers appear to be previously unknown. The suppression extends to physical access as well. The Osiris shaft, that remarkable underground chamber with its mysterious acoustics and empty sarcophagus, has been sealed and made inaccessible to researchers. Despite its obvious importance for understanding the underground network at Giza, permits for detailed study have been denied or revoked. The few researchers who have gained access report being strictly limited in their time and methods, preventing comprehensive documentation of the site's features. This pattern of restriction is not limited to modern discovery. Historical documents describing underground chambers and passages have been systematically ignored or dismissed by mainstream archaeology. The detailed maps created by Napoleon's expedition, showing extensive subterranean features, are treated as historical curiosities rather than legitimate archaeological evidence. The accounts of early explorers like Budge and Winlock, describing chambers and passages they claim to have explored, are relegated to the realm of speculation despite their detailed and specific nature. Perhaps most troubling is the fate of the Coptic scroll reportedly discovered in a Cairo monastery during the late 19th century. According to the surviving account, this manuscript described the pyramids as beacons of stone, built before language by an unknown civilization. The scroll supposedly contained information that could have revolutionized our understanding of Giza's origins, placing the monuments in a prehistoric context that predated dynastic Egypt by millennia. The destruction of this scroll in a suspiciously convenient fire represents the ultimate form of suppression. The complete elimination of inconvenient evidence, whether the fire was accidental or deliberate. The loss of this potentially crucial document follows a disturbing pattern of important discoveries that vanish just before they can be properly studied and understood. The academic establishment itself participates in this suppression through a system of intellectual gatekeeping that makes it career suicide to seriously challenge the orthodox timeline of Egyptian history. Researchers who propose alternative theories about Giza's origins find themselves marginalized, their papers rejected by mainstream journals, their funding denied, and their professional reputations damaged. The system rewards conformity and punishes innovation, ensuring that challenging ideas are filtered out before they can gain serious consideration. The media plays a role in this suppression as well, often sensationalizing alternative theories in ways that make them appear ridiculous while ignoring the legitimate scientific evidence that supports them. Serious geological analysis of the Sphinx's water erosion becomes ancient alien theories, while sophisticated mathematical analysis of the pyramid's proportions is dismissed as numerology. This distortion ensures that the public never encounters the evidence in a form that might lead to serious questioning of official narratives. The financial interests surrounding Giza tourism provide additional motivation for suppressing disruptive discoveries. Egypt's economy depends heavily on tourism revenue generated by the pyramids and associated monuments. The carefully crafted narrative of pharaonic achievement draws millions of visitors each year who come to see wonders built by ancient Egyptian kings. A revelation that these monuments were actually built by unknown prehistoric civilizations could disrupt this lucrative industry and damage Egypt's national identity. International organizations like UNESCO, which oversees World Heritage Sites including Giza, have their own interests in maintaining stability and preventing controversy. Discoveries that might require dramatic revision of historical timelines or raise questions about human origins could be seen as destabilizing influences that are better left unexplored. The bureaucratic structure of international archaeology tends to favor conservative interpretations and incremental changes rather than revolutionary discoveries. The suppression even extends to technological analysis of the monuments themselves. Attempts to conduct detailed sonic surveys, electromagnetic mapping, or other advanced analytical techniques are often denied or severely restricted. The few studies that have been permitted are typically limited in scope and duration, preventing the comprehensive analysis that might reveal the full extent of Giza's technological sophistication. Behind this web of suppression lies a fundamental question. What could be so threatening about ancient monuments that their true nature must be hidden? The answer may lie in the implications of acknowledging advanced prehistoric civilization. Such recognition would challenge our entire understanding of human development, suggesting that our current technological civilization is not the first to achieve advanced capabilities. The existence of sophisticated prehistoric cultures would raise uncomfortable questions about cycles of rise and fall in human development. The possibility of lost knowledge and technologies and the fragility of our own civilization. It might suggest that we are not the pinnacle of human achievement, but merely the latest iteration in a long series of technological civilizations that have risen and fallen throughout prehistory. For some researchers, the suppression itself has become a subject of study. They point to patterns of concealment that extend across multiple sites and cultures, suggesting a coordinated effort to maintain certain narratives about human history. Whether this coordination is conscious and deliberate or simply the result of institutional momentum and resistance to change, the effect is the same. Evidence that challenges orthodox timelines and theories is systematically marginalized or eliminated. The digital age has created new opportunities for suppression as well as revelation. While the internet allows alternative researchers to share information and theories that might never see publication in mainstream venues, it also enables the flooding of cyberspace with disinformation and sensationalized claims that make it difficult for serious researchers to be heard above the noise. The psychological aspects of suppression should not be overlooked. The human mind has a powerful tendency to reject information that conflicts with established beliefs, especially when those beliefs are tied to professional identity, cultural background, or institutional loyalty. The suppression of challenging evidence about Giza may not always be conscious or deliberate, but may simply reflect the natural human tendency to avoid cognitive dissonance. As you drift deeper into contemplation of these suppression patterns, consider the possibility that truth itself has become a casualty in the battle to maintain comfortable narratives about our past. The evidence for advanced prehistoric civilizations at Giza exists in the stones themselves, in the mathematical relationships, in the technological impossibilities, and in the geological testimony of great antiquity. But this evidence is systematically ignored, dismissed, or hidden away from public view. In the darkness of the desert night, the suppressed evidence whispers its secrets to those willing to listen. The sealed doors, the banned explorations, the lost documents, and the dismissed discoveries all point toward truths that someone somewhere has decided we are not ready to hear. The pattern of suppression itself becomes evidence of the profound implications that acknowledging these truths would have for our understanding of ourselves and our place in the long story of human civilization. The monuments of Giza stand as silent witnesses to this suppression, their secrets locked away by human prejudice and institutional inertia. But stone is patient, and truth has a way of eventually breaking through even the most carefully constructed barrier. In the silence of the ancient chambers, suppressed evidence waits for the day when humanity will be ready to confront the full implications of what lies hidden beneath the sands of time. As the desert wind carries whispers across the vast expanse of the Sahara, let your consciousness expand to encompass the entire globe. For the mysteries of Giza do not exist in isolation. Close your eyes and allow your mind to travel across continents and oceans, to other ancient sites that echo with the same mathematical precision, the same impossible construction techniques, and the same tantalizing silence about their true origins. What emerges from this global perspective is a pattern that suggests not isolated achievements by separate cultures, but a worldwide network of monuments built according to shared principles by civilizations that possess knowledge far exceeding what we attribute to the ancient world. Begin your journey in the wind-swept highlands of Turkey, where the ancient site of Göbekli Tepe rises from the Anatolian landscape like a stone symphony frozen in time. Here, massive T-shaped pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, were erected in precise circular arrangements around 9,600 BCE. More than 6,000 years before Stonehenge and 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid's supposed construction. The sophistication of the carved reliefs adorning these pillars, depicting complex symbolic systems and astronomical alignments, challenges our understanding of what Neolithic peoples were supposedly capable of achieving. The parallels with Giza are striking. Like the Great Pyramid, Göbekli Tepe demonstrates mathematical precision in its layout, with the circular enclosures following geometric principles that suggest advanced planning and surveying capabilities. The site shows evidence of astronomical alignments, with the pillars oriented to celestial events in ways that required sophisticated observation and calculation. Most mysteriously, like the monuments of Giza, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried under tons of earth, as if its builders wanted to hide their achievement from future generations. The acoustic properties of Göbekli Tepe's stone circles create resonance effects similar to those found in the Great Pyramid's chambers. Specific frequencies are amplified within the enclosures, suggesting that sound played an important role in whatever activities took place there. The builders demonstrated the same understanding of stone acoustics that we observe in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, implying shared knowledge of sound engineering techniques. From Turkey, let your journey carry you across the Mediterranean to the ancient temples of Malta, where another impossible construction project awaits your contemplation. The Hypogeum of Hal Safliane, carved from solid limestone around 300 and 600 BCE, descends through multiple levels deep into the bedrock. Like the underground chambers at Giza, the Hypogeum demonstrates acoustic engineering that seems far too sophisticated for its supposed time period. The oracle room within the Hypogeum resonates at precisely 11 and 10 Hz, the same frequency that induces altered states of consciousness and is found in acoustic chambers around the world, including the Great Pyramid. The precision of the carving, the mathematical relationships between the chambers, and the advanced understanding of underground construction techniques all echo the mysteries we have observed beneath the Giza Plateau. The megalithic temples above ground in Malta present their own technological puzzles. Stones weighing up to 50 tons were quarried, transported, and positioned with precision that challenges conventional archaeology. The templates show evidence of advanced planning with architectural features that required sophisticated understanding of structural engineering and load distribution. Like the monuments of Giza, they appear suddenly in the archaeological record without clear precedents or development phase. Your journey continues across the Atlantic to the mysterious ruins of Pumapunku in Bolivia, where stone blocks cut with laser-like precision create interlocking patterns of staggering complexity. The andesite and granite stones used in construction are among the hardest materials on Earth, yet they show tool marks, suggesting cutting rates that exceed what is possible with any known ancient technology. The precision of the joints between stones creates seams so tight that a piece of paper cannot be inserted between them, a level of accuracy that rivals modern machine tooling. The mathematical relationships evident in Pumapunku's layout mirror the sophisticated geometry we observe at Giza. The stone blocks are cut to precise angles and dimensions that create complex three-dimensional puzzle systems requiring advanced mathematical planning. The site demonstrates the same sudden appearance of advanced capabilities without apparent developmental predecessors that characterizes the monuments of Giza. The astronomical alignments at Pumapunku connect the site to celestial cycles in ways that required sophisticated observation and calculation. Like the Great Pyramid's stellar alignments, these orientations suggest builders who possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy and the ability to incorporate celestial mechanics into their architectural planning. In Japan, the submerged ruins of Yonaguni present evidence of construction that may date to the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower than today. The massive stone structures with their precise right angles and step terraces show evidence of human modification that challenges conventional timelines of technological development. The similarities to other ancient megalithic sites around the world suggest connections that extend across ocean basins and continents. The acoustic properties of Yonaguni's stone structures, measured by underwater archaeologists, show resonance characteristics similar to other ancient sites. The mathematical precision of the construction, with its perfect angles and measured proportions, echoes the same sophisticated understanding of geometry that we observe at Giza and other ancient monuments. Even in the remote Easter Island, the massive Moai statues demonstrate construction and transportation capabilities that challenge conventional explanation. Recent discoveries have revealed that many of the statues have bodies buried beneath centuries of soil accumulation, making them far larger and more complex than previously understood. The precision of the carving, the sophisticated understanding of weight distribution required for transportation, and the mathematical relationships between statue groups all suggest capabilities that exceed what we attribute to the island's supposed ancient population. In Cambodia, the massive temple complex of Angkor Wat demonstrates astronomical alignments and mathematical proportions that rival those found at Giza. The temple's layout incorporates sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, with architectural features aligned to solstices, equinoxes, and other astronomical events. The precision of the construction, the mathematical relationships embedded in the temple's proportions, and the advanced hydraulic engineering systems all suggest capabilities that seem anachronistic for the supposed period of construction. The Nazca lines of Peru present their own technological mysteries, with geometric patterns and animal figures created on a scale that can only be fully appreciated from the air. The precision of the lines, some extending for kilometers across the desert landscape while maintaining perfect straightness, suggests surveying capabilities that rival modern techniques. The mathematical relationships between different sections of the lines, and their alignments to astronomical events, demonstrate sophisticated planning and execution capabilities. What emerges from this global survey is a pattern of ancient sites that share remarkable similarities despite being separated by vast distances and supposedly different time periods. They demonstrate the same mathematical precision, the same astronomical alignments, the same acoustic engineering, and the same technological capabilities that seem to exceed what conventional archaeology attributes to their respective civilizations. The distribution of these sites follows patterns that suggest deliberate placement rather than random development. Many are located at specific latitudes that relate to important astronomical cycles, or at positions that create geometric relationships when mapped on a global scale. Some researchers have proposed that these sites form a worldwide grid based on mathematical principles that we are only beginning to understand. The construction techniques evident at these sites show remarkable similarities despite the use of different local materials and supposedly different cultural contexts. The precision stone cutting, the massive stone transportation, the sophisticated architectural planning, and the advanced acoustic engineering all suggest access to shared knowledge and techniques that have been lost to mainstream history. The astronomical alignments found at these sites often target the same celestial events and cycles, suggesting shared astronomical knowledge and possibly coordinated observation program. The precision of these alignments, often accurate to fractions of degrees across vast distances, implies surveying and construction capabilities that rival or exceed modern technique. Perhaps most significantly, many of these sites share the same pattern of mysterious origins and subsequent decline. They appear suddenly in the archaeological record with full sophistication, are used or modified by later cultures that clearly did not understand their original purposes, and are eventually abandoned or buried. This pattern suggests that they may all be remnants of a single advanced global civilization that was subsequently lost to catastrophe or other causes. The acoustic properties shared by many of these sites suggest that sound engineering was a common element in their design and construction. The specific frequencies that are amplified, particularly around 110 Hz, are known to induce altered states of consciousness, and may have been related to ancient practices of consciousness exploration or spiritual transformation. The global distribution of this acoustic knowledge implies shared understanding of sound engineering principles. The mathematical relationships found at these sites often incorporate the same fundamental constants, pi, phi, and Earth's dimensions, that we observe at Giza. This suggests that the builders possessed advanced mathematical knowledge that was applied consistently across global construction projects. The precision and sophistication of this mathematical knowledge exceeds what we attribute to any known ancient civilization. As you allow this global perspective to settle into your consciousness like sediment in an ancient lake, consider the implications of what we have discovered. The monuments of Giza are not isolated anomalies, but part of a worldwide pattern of advanced ancient construction that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the development of human civilization. The evidence suggests the existence of a global civilization that possessed advanced knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, acoustics, and construction technique. The civilization left monuments on every continent that demonstrate capabilities that we are only beginning to understand and appreciate. Whether this civilization was entirely human, influenced by non-human intelligence, or represented a level of human advancement that we have not yet acknowledged, it appears to have operated on a scale and with capabilities that dwarf anything in recorded history. The suppression and dismissal of evidence for this global network of ancient sites follows the same patterns we have observed at Giza. Discoveries that challenge conventional timelines are marginalized or ignored. Advanced capabilities are explained away or attributed to conventional technique. The implications of coordinated global construction are avoided or dismissed as coincident. In the silence of the desert night, as ancient stars wheel overhead in patterns that were already old when these monuments were new, the global network of ancient sites whispers its secrets to those willing to listen. The stones speak of a world that was connected across vast distances, a civilization that thought in terms of planetary engineering, and a level of human achievement that we have forgotten how to recognize or understand. The monuments of Giza stand as part of this global legacy, connected to their distant cousins by threads of knowledge and purpose that span continents and oceans. In their mathematical precision, their astronomical alignments, their acoustic properties, and their technological sophistication, they speak of a time when human civilization, or perhaps something beyond human civilization, reached heights that we are only now beginning to glimpse. In the deepest hour of night, when the veil between past and present grows thin, we must confront the most profound possibility raised by our investigation, that the monuments of Giza were never intended as tombs for dead pharaohs, but as repositories for living knowledge, vast libraries carved in stone, designed to preserve the wisdom of a lost civilization through the dark ages of forgetting. Close your eyes and allow your consciousness to drift back through the millennia to witness the creation of the ultimate time capsule, a monument built to outlast the collapse of worlds. The silence of the Great Pyramid speaks volumes about its true purpose. Unlike every other significant structure in ancient Egypt, it bears no hieroglyphic inscriptions identifying its builders, no religious texts guiding souls through the afterlife, no painted scenes of royal glory or divine triumph. This absence is not an oversight. It is a deliberate choice, a decision to speak in the universal language of mathematics and geometry rather than the transient dialects of human culture. Consider the profound wisdom embedded in this decision. Languages die, cultures vanish, writing systems become unreadable mysteries like the linear script of ancient Crete or the Rongo-Rongo glyphs of Easter Island, but mathematical relationships endure forever. P remains constant whether calculated by ancient Greeks, medieval Arabs, or modern computers. The golden ratio appears in the same spirals of nautilus shells whether observed by Egyptian priests or contemporary biologists. The dimensions of the Earth remain unchanged regardless of which civilization measures them. By encoding their knowledge in mathematical constants and geometric relationships, the builders of the Great Pyramid created a message that could be understood by any civilization advanced enough to measure and calculate. The pyramid's dimensions reveal pi and phi with remarkable precision. Its proportions, when scaled by the factor 43 to 200, yield the Earth's polar radius and equatorial circumference. Its stellar alignments point to specific constellations as they appeared in ancient times, preserving astronomical data that could be used to calculate the monument's age with precision. This mathematical encoding represents a form of information storage far more durable than any library of papyrus scrolls or clay tablets. The constants embedded in the pyramid's proportions will remain true for as long as mathematics itself exists. The geometric relationships will be recognizable to any civilization that has developed advanced mathematics, regardless of their cultural background or technological approach. The acoustic properties of the pyramid's chambers suggest another layer of information storage that we are only beginning to understand. The king's chamber resonates at specific frequencies that correspond to mathematical ratios and natural harmonics. Some researchers have proposed that these acoustic properties might have been used to encode information in sound waves, creating a kind of analog audio storage system built from stone. The precision required to create these acoustic effects demonstrates sophisticated understanding of wave mechanics, harmonic mathematics, and the relationship between sound and consciousness. The specific frequency of 1110 Hz, which is consistently measured in the king's chamber, is known to induce altered states of consciousness and enhanced memory formation in human subjects. Could this frequency have been chosen deliberately to enhance the learning and retention of information transmitted within the chamber? The underground chambers beneath Giza add another dimension to the repository theory. The Osiris shaft, with its 3 levels descending deep into the bedrock, creates a controlled environment that could preserve materials and information far better than surface structure. The stable temperature and humidity found in these chambers provide conditions similar to modern archival storage facilities, suggesting that the builders understood the requirements for long-term preservation. The empty sarcophagus in the deepest chamber of the Osiris shaft takes on new meaning when viewed as part of an information storage system rather than a burial facility. Its precise dimensions and positioning might have been designed to hold not a body but repositories of knowledge, perhaps crystalline storage media, metal plates with inscribed information or other durable materials that could preserve data across millennia. The sealed doors discovered by robotic exploration in the pyramid's air shafts suggest additional storage areas that remain unopened and unexplored. The copper pins that seal these doors might mark them as particularly important repositories, with the metal serving as both a preservation medium and a symbolic indicator of the treasures within. Copper's antimicrobial properties and resistance to corrosion make it an ideal material for protecting stored information from biological and chemical degradation. The mathematical relationships between different chambers and passages within the pyramid suggest a sophisticated organizational system for stored information. Different areas might contain different types of knowledge. Astronomical data in chambers aligned with stellar targets, mathematical constants in spaces with specific geometric proportions, acoustic information in chambers tuned to particular frequency. The precision of the pyramid's construction serves not only to embed mathematical information in its structure, but also to create a supremely stable platform for other forms of information storage. The monument's alignment to true north, its level base and its structural integrity over millennia, demonstrate the builder's understanding that information preservation requires environmental stability over geological timescale. The choice of materials for the pyramid's construction reflects sophisticated understanding of preservation requirements. The limestone blocks used for the main structure are relatively soft and workable, but they also contain natural preservatives that inhibit biological growth and chemical degradation. The granite used in the king's chamber is one of the most durable materials on Earth, capable of preserving inscribed information for millions of years. The location of Giza itself may have been chosen specifically for its information preservation properties. The dry desert climate minimizes biological degradation, while the stable geological conditions protect against seismic damage. The elevation above the Nile floodplain protects against water damage, while the limestone bedrock provides a solid foundation that will remain stable for geological ages. The timing of the pyramid's construction, if it indeed dates to earlier than conventional archaeology suggests, might have been coordinated with climatic changes that the builders foresaw. If the monument was built during the transition from the African humid period to the current arid climate, its builders might have anticipated the preservation advantages that would result from the changing environmental conditions. The global network of similar sites that we explored in the previous chapter suggests that the repository concept was implemented on a worldwide scale. Each site might have contained different aspects of the preserved knowledge base, with Giza serving as perhaps the central or most comprehensive facility. The mathematical relationships between these sites might encode information about their relative importance or the types of knowledge they contain. The suppression of research into Giza's hidden chambers takes on new significance when viewed in the context of knowledge preservation. If the sealed areas contain actual repositories of advanced ancient knowledge, the implications for our understanding of human history and capabilities would be revolutionary. Such discoveries might reveal technologies, scientific understanding, or philosophical insights that could dramatically advance human civilization, or they might contain warnings about dangers that await technological societies. The psychological barriers to accepting the repository theory reflect deeper human anxieties about our place in the cosmic timeline. If the Great Pyramid preserves knowledge from a lost civilization more advanced than our own, it challenges our assumption that human progress follows a steady upward trajectory. It suggests instead that civilizations rise and fall in cycles, and that our current technological achievements may not represent the pinnacle of human development, but merely one point in a much longer cycle of advancement and decline. The repository theory also raises profound questions about the nature of the civilization that created these information storage systems. What kind of society would invest enormous resources in preserving knowledge for future civilizations rather than focusing on immediate survival and prosperity? What crisis or insight motivated them to think in terms of geological timescales and civilizational continuity? The builders' decision to encode their knowledge in permanent materials rather than passing it down through human institutions suggests they anticipated a catastrophic break in civilizational continuity. They may have foreseen wars, natural disasters, or social collapses that would destroy libraries, schools, and other traditional knowledge preservation systems. By embedding their wisdom in stone monuments, they created repositories that could survive even the complete breakdown of human society. The mathematical precision required to encode complex information in the pyramid's proportions and alignments demonstrates capabilities that extend far beyond simple construction technique. The builders would have needed to possess advanced knowledge in multiple fields: mathematics, astronomy, physics, materials science, and information theory, and the ability to integrate this knowledge into a coherent storage system. The acoustic encoding systems suggested by the pyramid's resonant properties imply understanding of information storage techniques that we are only beginning to develop. The use of sound waves to store and retrieve information represents a technology that bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern digital systems. The specific frequencies used in the pyramid's chambers might carry encoded messages that we have not yet learned to decode. As you drift deeper into contemplation of the repository theory, allow yourself to imagine the moment when this vast information storage system might be fully activated. Perhaps it awaits a future civilization that has developed the mathematical and technological sophistication necessary to unlock its secret. The sealed chambers, the encoded proportions, and the acoustic systems might all work together to reveal knowledge that could transform human understanding of the universe and our place within it. The patience built into the repository system reflects a profound faith in the future of intelligent life. The builders created their information storage system not for immediate use, but for civilizations that might not emerge for thousands or tens of thousands of years. They embedded their knowledge in the most permanent materials and structures they could devise, trusting that future minds would eventually develop the wisdom and capability necessary to unlock their secret. In the silence of the Great Pyramid's chambers, this vast repository of knowledge waits patiently for its appointed time. The mathematical constants encoded in its proportions whisper of cosmic relationships that transcend human culture. The empty chambers echo with possibilities that stretch across the centuries. The sealed doors guard secrets that might reshape our understanding of the past and our vision of the future. The repository of lost knowledge stands ready to reveal its treasures to minds that have learned to listen to the language of stone and number, frequency and proportion. In the darkness of the pyramid's heart, ancient wisdom waits for the dawn of understanding, patient as mathematics itself, enduring as the stars that wheel overhead in their eternal dance. As the stars fade toward dawn and the desert air whispers with ancient memory, we must explore the most captivating possibility of all, that the monuments of Giza are the last surviving remnants of Atlantis, that legendary civilization described by Plato as a marvel of engineering and wisdom that vanished beneath the waves in a single catastrophic day and night. Close your eyes and let your consciousness drift back through the mists of deep time, to a world that existed when the Sahara was green, when mighty rivers flowed where now only sand remains, and when a great civilization faced its final twilight. The story of Atlantis comes to us through Plato's dialogues. Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 BC, the Greek philosopher described a mighty civilization that flourished 9,000 years before his time, placing its destruction around 9,600 BCE, remarkably close to the end of the African humid period when the Sahara began its transformation from verdant grassland to arid desert. According to Plato, Atlantis was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar, but his description of the civilization's capabilities and achievements bears striking similarities to the mysteries we have uncovered at Giza. Plato described Atlantis as a society of master architects and engineers capable of moving massive stones and creating monumental structures that amazed the ancient world. The Atlanteans, he wrote, possessed advanced knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and hydraulic engineering. They built concentric rings of canals, massive harbors, and temples faced with gleaming metal. Their understanding of stone working and construction techniques allowed them to create edifices that seemed to defy the capabilities of ordinary human engineering. The timeline of Atlantis's destruction, according to Plato's account, coincides remarkably with the geological evidence we have examined at Giza. The water erosion patterns on the Sphinx point to a time approximately 7,000 to 10,000 years ago when heavy rains fell regularly on the Giza Plateau. This dating aligns with the end of the African humid period, when dramatic climate changes transformed the entire region. Could the floods and earthquakes that Plato described as destroying Atlantis have been part of this global climatic catastrophe? The survivors of such a catastrophe might well have sought refuge in the most stable and elevated areas they could find, such as the limestone plateau at Giza. Here they might have undertaken their greatest project, the construction of monuments designed to preserve their knowledge and achievements for future civilization. The mathematical precision, astronomical alignments, and technological sophistication we observe in the Great Pyramid and Sphinx could represent the final flowering of Atlantean science and engineering. The absence of inscriptions in the Great Pyramid takes on new meaning when viewed through the lens of the Atlantis connection. If the builders were indeed refugees from a destroyed civilization, they might have chosen to encode their knowledge in universal mathematical relationships rather than in the specific language and writing system of their lost homeland. The pyramid's silence becomes not a mystery but a deliberate choice, a decision to speak in the timeless language of geometry and proportion rather than the transient symbols of a dead culture. The underground chambers and passages beneath Giza could represent the remnants of Atlantean infrastructure. Plato described Atlantis as having sophisticated hydraulic systems, underground chambers, and subterranean passages that connected different parts of the civilization. The network of chambers, shafts, and tunnels that ground-penetrating radar has detected beneath the Giza Plateau mirrors these descriptions remarkably closely. The acoustic properties of the Great Pyramid's chambers align with Plato's descriptions of Atlantean temples as places where sound was used for healing, consciousness alteration, and communication with higher realms of knowledge. The precision frequency of 1110 Hz measured in the king's chamber is exactly the frequency that induces transcendent states of consciousness, a technology that an advanced civilization might have developed for spiritual and educational purposes. The global network of similar sites that we have explored, from Göbekli Tepe to Puma Punku, from Malta's temples to Easter Island's Moai, could represent the worldwide extent of Atlantean influence. Rather than being a single island civilization, Atlantis might have been a global culture with outposts and colonies on every continent. The remarkable similarities in construction techniques, mathematical relationships, and astronomical alignments between these sites suggest coordination on a scale that exceeds anything in recorded history. The mathematical constants encoded in the Great Pyramid, pi, phi, and the Earth's dimensions represent exactly the kind of advanced knowledge that Plato attributed to the Atlantean. He described them as having precise understanding of celestial mechanics, mathematical relationships, and the fundamental structures of reality. The pyramid's proportions preserve this knowledge in the most permanent form possible, ensuring that future civilizations could rediscover these cosmic constants even if all other records were lost. The technology required to construct the Great Pyramid aligns remarkably with Plato's descriptions of Atlantean capability. He wrote of their ability to move massive stones with ease, to cut and shape the hardest rocks with precision, and to align their structures with celestial bodies with perfect accuracy. The transportation of 70-ton granite blocks from Aswan to Giza, the precision cutting of millions of limestone blocks, and the mathematical perfection of the pyramid's construction all suggest capabilities that match Plato's account of Atlantean engineering prowess. The legend of Atlantis includes references to advanced metallurgy and the use of mysterious metals with properties unlike anything known to conventional ancient technology. The copper pins found sealing the doors in the Great Pyramid's air shafts might represent examples of Atlantean metallurgy, with the metal chosen not just for its practical properties but for its symbolic significance in preserving knowledge across ages. Plato's description of Atlantis as a civilization obsessed with preserving knowledge for future generations perfectly matches what we observe in the Great Pyramid's design as an information repository. The Atlanteans, according to Plato, were deeply concerned with maintaining the continuity of their wisdom and achievements across time. Faced with the prospect of civilizational collapse, they might have focused their final energies on creating monuments that could serve as libraries for future human development. The catastrophic end of Atlantis described by Plato, floods, earthquakes, and sudden submersion, aligns with the geological evidence for rapid climate change at the end of the African humid period. Sea levels rose dramatically as Ice Age glaciers melted, while shifting weather patterns brought drought to previously fertile regions. The combination of flooding in some areas and desertification in others could have created exactly the kind of catastrophic conditions that Plato described as destroying Atlantis. The survivors of such a catastrophe would have possessed exactly the motivation and knowledge necessary to undertake the massive construction projects we observe at Giza. Knowing that their civilization was ending, they might have invested their remaining resources in creating monuments that could preserve their achievements and guide future human development. The Great Pyramid and Sphinx could represent their ultimate legacy. Time capsules designed to outlast the ages and eventually reveal their secrets to worthy successors. The mystery surrounding the true builders of Giza's monuments mirrors the mystery of Atlantis itself. Just as Plato's account was dismissed by later generations as philosophical allegory rather than historical record, the evidence for advanced prehistoric civilizations at Giza has been systematically ignored or suppressed by mainstream archaeology. Both mysteries challenge our comfortable assumptions about the linear progress of human civilization and force us to consider the possibility of cycles of rise and fall in human development. The acoustic engineering evident in both the Great Pyramid and other ancient sites around the world suggests that sound played a crucial role in Atlantean technology. Plato described the Atlanteans as having advanced understanding of harmonic relationships and the use of sound for healing and consciousness alteration. The precise acoustic properties of ancient chambers from Giza to Malta to Göbekli Tepe could represent the preserved remnants of this lost acoustic science. The astronomical alignments built into Giza's monuments reflect the kind of sophisticated celestial knowledge that Plato attributed to the Atlanteans. He described them as having detailed understanding of planetary cycles, stellar movements, and the great cosmic rhythms that govern earthly affairs. The Great Pyramid's alignments to Orion's belt and the pole star, calculated for specific dates in the distant past, represent exactly this kind of advanced astronomical knowledge. The mathematical sophistication of the Great Pyramid's design suggests that its builders possessed what Plato called divine knowledge, understanding of the fundamental mathematical relationships that govern reality itself. The encoding of pi, phi, and the Earth's dimensions in the monument's proportions represents exactly the kind of cosmic wisdom that Plato associated with Atlantean civilization at its height. The suppression of evidence about Giza's true origins parallels the historical dismissal of Plato's Atlantis account. In both cases, discoveries that challenge conventional narratives about human development are marginalized, ignored, or explained away. The institutional resistance to acknowledging advanced prehistoric civilizations reflects the same psychological barriers that led later generations to dismiss Atlantis as mere myth rather than preserved memory. As you allow the possibility of the Atlantis connection to settle into your consciousness like mist over ancient waters, consider the profound implications of this theory. If the monuments of Giza are indeed the last surviving remnants of Plato's lost civilization, They represent not just architectural marvels but the final testament of humanity's first great technological culture. The Great Pyramid would then stand as more than a repository of knowledge. It would be a memorial to human achievement and a warning about the fragility of civilization itself. Built by survivors who had witnessed the collapse of their world, it serves as both a preservation of their greatest accomplishments and a caution to future generations about the cycles of rise and fall that seem to characterize human development. In the silence of the desert dawn, as the first light touches the apex of the Great Pyramid, the monuments of Giza stand as eternal witnesses to the Atlantis connection. Whether that legendary civilization was located in the Atlantic Ocean, in the Green Sahara, or across a global network of connected cultures, its legacy lives on in the mathematical precision, technological sophistication, and timeless wisdom preserved in these ancient stones. The lost civilization of Atlantis may have vanished beneath waves of water or waves of sand, but its greatest achievements remain visible to those who know how to look. In the proportions of the pyramid, the acoustics of its chambers, and the silence of its passages, the voice of Atlantis still whispers to humanity across the ages, offering both knowledge and warning to those wise enough to listen. In the final hours before dawn, when the boundary between the possible and impossible grows thin, we must confront the most extraordinary theory of all, that the monuments of Giza were not built by human hands alone, but bear the signature of intelligence from beyond our world. Close your eyes and allow your consciousness to expand beyond the confines of Earth, to consider the possibility that among the stars advanced civilizations have left their mark upon our planet in the form of monuments so precise, so mathematically perfect, that they serve as calling cards from the cosmos itself. The precision of the Great Pyramid defies explanation by any known ancient technology. Its base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across 13 acres of desert bedrock. Its alignment to true north is accurate to within 0.05 degrees. A precision that requires not just sophisticated surveying instruments but also deep understanding of the Earth's rotation and magnetic field. The mathematical constants embedded in its proportions, pi, phi, and the Earth's dimensional relationships, suggest knowledge that transcends human achievement in the ancient world. Consider the implications of this precision from a cosmic perspective. An extraterrestrial civilization visiting Earth thousands of years ago would possess exactly the kind of advanced mathematical and engineering knowledge evident in the Great Pyramid's design. Their understanding of planetary dimensions, celestial mechanics, and universal mathematical constants would naturally exceed that of early human civilization. The pyramid's proportions might represent their attempt to encode universal knowledge in a permanent monument that could survive across geological ages. The technological requirements for building the Great Pyramid seem to exceed human capabilities even today. Moving 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing up to 70 tons, with the precision evident in the monument's construction, would challenge modern engineering. The cutting techniques required to shape granite with the smoothness and accuracy found in the king's chamber would require tools harder than steel, tools that supposedly did not exist in the ancient world. An extraterrestrial explanation for these technological impossibilities provides answers that human agency cannot. Advanced civilizations capable of interstellar travel would possess materials science, energy systems, and construction techniques that could easily account for the pyramid's precision. They might have used technologies based on electromagnetic levitation, sonic cutting, or molecular manipulation capabilities that would seem magical to ancient humans but would be routine for a truly advanced civilization. The absence of inscriptions in the Great Pyramid takes on new significance when viewed from an extraterrestrial perspective. Why would alien architects include human writing systems in their construction? Instead, they chose to communicate through the universal language of mathematics, relationships and constants that would be recognized by any technologically advanced civilization, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial. The pyramid's proportions speak in cosmic mathematics. transcending the boundaries of species and worlds. The stellar alignments built into the Great Pyramid's design suggest builders who thought in terms of galactic rather than terrestrial perspectives. The air shafts point with laser precision to specific stars as they appeared thousands of years ago, requiring not just astronomical knowledge but also the ability to calculate stellar positions across vast periods of time. Such calculations would be routine for a spacefaring civilization but virtually impossible for Bronze Age humans. The global distribution of similar monuments from Göbekli Tepe to Puma Punku, from Easter Island to Baalbek, suggests coordination on a scale that exceeds any known ancient human civilization. These sites share mathematical relationships, construction techniques, and astronomical alignments that imply centralized planning and advanced technology. A visiting extraterrestrial civilization could have established multiple sites around the globe as part of a comprehensive planetary survey or communication network. The acoustic properties of the Great Pyramid's chambers might represent an alien technology for consciousness interface or communication. The precise frequency of 1110 Hz measured in the King's Chamber is known to induce altered states of consciousness in humans. An advanced civilization might have designed these acoustic effects as a way to interface with human consciousness, either for communication purposes or to enhance human cognitive abilities during contact procedure. The underground network detected beneath Giza could represent remnants of extraterrestrial infrastructure. The geometric precision of the chambers and passages, their apparent disconnection from human burial practices, and their sophisticated acoustic properties all suggest functions that transcend terrestrial purposes. These underground facilities might have served as bases, laboratories, or communication centers for visiting extraterrestrial teams. The copper pins sealing the doors discovered in the pyramid's air shafts might represent alien artifact preservation systems. The metal's antimicrobial properties and resistance to corrosion make it ideal for long-term storage, while its conductivity might be relevant to technologies we do not yet understand. The doors themselves, with their precision fitting and mysterious purpose, could be protecting extraterrestrial devices or information storage systems from contamination or premature discovery. The mathematical encoding in the Great Pyramid's proportions might represent an extraterrestrial attempt to gradually introduce advanced concepts to human civilization. By embedding universal constants in Earth's dimensional relationships in the monument's structure, they created a curriculum that would become accessible as human mathematical understanding evolved. The pyramid serves as both a landmark and a lesson, revealing its secrets progressively as human science advances. The suppression of research into Giza's anomalies takes on new significance when viewed through the lens of possible extraterrestrial involvement. Governments and institutions might be actively concealing evidence of alien contact to prevent social disruption or maintain existing power structure. The systematic denial of underground chambers, the termination of robotic explorations, and the dismissal of anomalous evidence could all represent efforts to prevent the discovery of alien artifacts or technology. The timeline of the Great Pyramid's construction, if it indeed predates dynastic Egypt by millennia, aligns with various accounts of ancient astronaut visitation found in cultures around the world. Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki as beings who came from the heavens and taught civilization to humans. Hindu scriptures describe Vimana as flying vehicles operated by beings from other worlds. Egyptian mythology itself includes references to gods who descended from the stars and shared knowledge with humanity. The technological acceleration evident in human civilization following the supposed construction of the Great Pyramid might reflect the gradual assimilation of extraterrestrial. The sudden appearance of advanced mathematical concepts, sophisticated engineering techniques, and precise astronomical knowledge in various ancient cultures could represent the slow dissemination of alien-introduced concepts across human society. The Great Pyramid's function as a repository of knowledge becomes even more significant if it was designed by extraterrestrial intelligence. Rather than simply preserving human achievements, it might contain information about the universe, advanced technologies, or the history of galactic civilization. The sealed chambers could hold alien databases, technological blueprints, or communication devices waiting for humanity to develop sufficient understanding to unlock their secret. The acoustic resonance systems throughout the pyramid might have been designed to interface with alien technology or consciousness. The specific frequencies that are amplified in various chambers could represent carrier waves for information transmission, activation codes for dormant systems, or harmonics designed to affect human brainwave patterns in ways that enhance learning or memory retention. The precision of the Great Pyramid's construction serves not only functional purposes but also demonstrates technological capabilities to any advanced civilization that might encounter it in the future. The monument functions as a technological signature, proving that intelligent beings with sophisticated engineering capabilities once operated on Earth. It serves as both a landmark and a calling card for cosmic visitors. The global positioning of similar monuments might represent elements of an extraterrestrial infrastructure network. The mathematical relationships between sites, their shared construction techniques, and their common astronomical alignments suggest coordination that could only be achieved by a civilization with global perspective and advanced transportation capabilities. These sites might have served as navigation beacons, communication relays, or resource extraction facilities for visiting extraterrestrial civilizations. The gradual decline in construction quality at later pyramid sites could reflect the departure of extraterrestrial assistance. The Great Pyramid represents the pinnacle of precision and sophistication, while subsequent pyramids show progressively cruder construction techniques and less mathematical precision. This pattern suggests that human builders attempted to replicate alien-assisted construction but lacked the necessary knowledge and technology to maintain the same standards. The mystery of the Great Pyramid's internal chambers, empty spaces with no apparent function in human burial practices, might reflect their original purpose as housing for extraterrestrial technology or personnel. The precise acoustic properties, electromagnetic anomalies, and geometric relationships of these chambers suggest functions that transcend terrestrial purposes. They might have served as control rooms, laboratories, or living quarters for visiting alien teams. As you contemplate this most extraordinary possibility in the depths of the desert night, consider that the evidence for extraterrestrial involvement at Giza is not based on speculation alone but on measurable anomalies that resist conventional explanation. The mathematical impossibilities, the technological precision, the global coordination, and the systematic suppression of investigation all point toward involvement by intelligence that exceeds known human capabilities. Whether the extraterrestrial architects were benevolent teachers sharing knowledge with emerging human civilization, researchers studying planetary development, or something else entirely, their legacy remains embedded in the stones of Giza. The Great Pyramid stands as a monument not just to human achievement, but to the possibility that we are not alone in the universe, and that advanced civilizations have recognized Earth as worthy of their attention and assistance. In the silence of the pyramid's chambers, alien technology might still wait for activation. In the precision of its proportions, extraterrestrial mathematics continues to challenge human understanding. In the mystery of its purpose, the possibility of cosmic contact whispers across the millennia, reminding us that the universe is vast. Intelligence may take many forms, and the monuments of Giza might be humanity's first glimpse of a galactic civilization that spans the stars. The extraterrestrial hypothesis for Giza's construction remains controversial and unproven, but it provides answers to questions that conventional archaeology cannot address. As human civilization advances and our understanding of the universe expands, perhaps we will develop the wisdom and technology necessary to unlock the full secrets of these ancient monuments and discover whether they truly represent humanity's first contact with intelligence from beyond the stars.